In this video, we're going to talk about effects block signal chain in the Headrush Pedalboard. Alright, so this has been a fun series so far, and what I like about the Headrush unit, it is so versatile and you can do a lot of different cool things with it. But in this video, more specifically, I want to look at how you can really experiment with using different effects in different orders. And it kind of helps you get more educated when you do actually use analog effects or real amplifiers. You can see in the digital world how they interact with each other. And then when you get into the analog world, you can actually be a little more better prepared and kind of figure out what your tastes and preferences are. So in this rig, I have a phaser, I have a gray comp, there's basically it's a tube screamer. I'm going to go ahead and change some things around here. Hardware assigned. So I don't want my amp and cab connected to a switch because that's just pointless. That's just pointless. Actually, let's leave the cab in there. Because I'm about to show you the purpose of that here in a second. But let's do the reverbs up here. And then, alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to mess with the arrangement of the compression and the overdrive and the phaser, and we're going to swap them around and see how it changes the sound. So normally I would want my compressor to be very first in my chain, because I want my guitar to go into the compressor and then actually compress. So alright, if I turn that off, let me lower the preamp just a little bit. Turn that presence down. Okay, so here's my totally clean sound going into the amp. And then here is the compressor. Alright, so usually for me, and over the years, I have learned that I want my compressor first in the chain. So now let's look at, and my compressor is usually always on. So I usually wouldn't have this assigned to a switch. I would just know that it's, that's there in the chain. So, but now what I want to look at is, does effects like phase, flange, chorus, tremolo, stuff like that, does it sound better before overdrives or after overdrives? So with the phaser, this is what that sounds like with the overdrive off. And I can make that a little bit slower. I can make it stereo. And do be sure you're listening through headphones or studio monitors and not on your phone, because you're not really going to get that stereo effect from your phone speaker. So, so that sounds cool. All right, so here's the overdrive by itself. All right, and here's the phaser before the overdrive. And now this is really cool with the Headrush. I can just take my finger, slide the phaser over, and now it's going to be after my overdrive. So this is what that sounds like. Swap it back. And one more time. There's after the overdrive. All right, so like I said, you can experiment with this, but I like my phase, flange type effects to be before my overdrives. Now, notice in this chain that I have my volume pedal after my reverb and delay. So let's see what happens when I play here. All right, let's even do this. Let's go one step farther. Let's take my amplifier and move it down this way. So now my reverb and delay are going into a distorted amp. So let's see what that sounds like. Okay, let's really crank up the amp now. All right, let's turn down the amp. All right, so usually when you put reverb and delay into the input of a distorted amplifier, the reverb and delays are also distorted as well. So let's see what happens if I take my amp and move it before the reverb and delay. Okay, so it should sound a little bit cleaner versus going into the input of the amp, which is what this sounds like. Okay. Before. Notice how the reverb and delay are kind of a little more tucked away in the sound. It doesn't really come out as much. Because what's happening is when they're going into the input of the amp, that overdriven amp is also amplifying the effect of the reverb and delay. It just makes it louder in the chain. So see how loud and in your face it is versus coming after the amp? See, it's a lot less volume. So it's very interesting how all that works. And usually I don't do that in a physical amp pedal board situation. I usually have those type of effects in the effects loop of the amp. But yeah, you can definitely experiment with trying your reverb and delay into the input of an overdriven amp, and it definitely has a certain sound. So so now with my volume pedal, actually let's move it back after the reverb and delay. So usually my volume is before my delay and reverb, but if you have it afterwards, let me show you what happens. So right, my volume goes down, but it takes everything that was before the volume pedal, it lowers all that volume as well. Now let's show me what happens if I play the volume pedal and put it before my overdrives or before my reverb and delay. Let me really let's really crank it up here. Okay, so notice that my volume pedal, my volume pedal is down. But as I bring the heel down, the delay and reverb still trail off. And that's because, those effects are after the volume pedal. So even though my volume is down, the effects still are able to ring out. Let's do this. So yeah, so there you go. So that's the effect of having your volume before or after your delay and reverb. Now, to go one step farther, if we take our volume pedal and move it to the front of the chain, I'm actually affecting how much gain is being sent to the amplifier. So let's, you can do this with overdrive pedals. Let me just do it with the amplifier first, though. So here's my volume pedal before the amp. Let's turn the reverb and delay off. All right, so if I bring the volume pedal down just a little bit, it should clean up the amp a little bit. Right? Now, I usually like to have it on linear because just it's a different curve. It's still distorted, but it's not as much as it was when the toe was all the way down. So all right, very cool. And that pretty much gets the point across for the volume pedal. You can add in a wall pedal in here or a harmonizer or anything like that. But that's pretty much the basics of how to set up a signal chain. Usually for me, like I said, it would be like a wall pedal, compressor, phase, flange, overdrives, amplifier, and then the volume pedal, tremolo, chorus, stuff like that, delay, reverb, and then I actually have my cab last. And in the next video, I'm going to show you why that is. So stay tuned for the next video. I am Dr. McFarland. Keep rocking.